Shared the notes of bryophytes with your class rep. I hope you guys have received it, and if you have not, kindly ensure to get the notes of bryophytes. Yeah, this is the last chapter in the lower plants. These ones are really making noise. So this is the last chapter. We call it as pteridophytes. We call it as pteridophytes. It's the last chapter. It's a little bit prolonged, so I will try how much we are able to finish it, so that I can do some revision lectures with all of you online before I give you all another cut on the bryophyte and pteridophyte. Is that okay? Because you guys asked me not to put any question from bryophyte, so I did not put any questions in the last cut. But please, you guys are supposed to give one cut before you give your main semester exams. Is that okay? So I will see if we try to finish it in a couple of lectures. I can do some lectures, revision, even online is okay. I will just revise. Then you guys please appear for one cut two before you write your main exams. I would prefer that way, so that you are able to do very well. Okay? So okay. Okay, so kindly ensure to get your bryophytes notes as well, or if you are using the library books to get your bryophytes notes, is still okay, but I have already shared. So take this topic now as the last topic. You call it as pteridophytes. Take this note down, and these are a group of lower plants, still the lower plants, but somehow the highest category in the lower plants. So we call them as spore-producing Tracheophyta. If you are asked any question, what are the spore-producing Tracheophyta, and you are being given some objectives, because your semester exams are all objectives, kindly think properly before you choose for any option to take it. So if you are, in case if you are asked what are the spore-producing Tracheophyta, you have to opt for pteridophytes. Okay, so we proceed, and you can take the note of this. Now we'll just know what pteridophytes are. Okay, so we will have a description on what are the plants, what are the lower plant group which comes under this category. So what are pteridophytes? So this term pteridophyte has been derived from the term pteris. Pteris, P-T-E-R-S, P silent here. So it is pteris, which means as ferns. And phyta, as you all know, it is plant. So it's a Greek word. You call it as pteris, and the term pteridophyta has been derived from the term pteris, and phyta means plant. That's what the term pteridophytes has come from. Now these are a group of vascular cryptogams. Do you know what are cryptogams? Do you know what are cryptogams? Have you heard about the term cryptogams? Yes? Can anybody say what is cryptogams? What do you mean by cryptogams? Sorry. What do you mean by the term cryptogams? Can anyone discuss? Yes? They all are spore-producing plants. They are still non-flowering plants. They don't produce flowers, but they do produce spores. So these are vascular cryptogams. They have the vascular tissues, but still they produce spores. That is why you say pteridophytes are vascular cryptogams. Okay? Then they occupy the position between the bryophytes and the spermatophyte. What are the spermatophytes plant? The higher plant. The higher plant, these angiosperms and all, they come under the category of spermatophytes. So the pteridophyte occupy the position between the bryophyte. Then first is the thallophyte, yeah? The algae, the fungi, and all, they come under this category. Then algae here, fungi, lichens, they come under that category of thallophyte. Then comes the bryophyte, where we have already studied all types of the Macantia, the Pteridophyta, this comes under this category. Then comes the Pteridophyte. And then comes the spermatophyte or the higher plants. So this is this Pteridophyte. That's what it says. This Pteridophyte, it occurs the position between the bryophytes and the spermatophyte. Understood? That's what. So this is like a highest group in the lower plant category. After that, the spermatophyte or the angiosperms come. So take a note of this, that these are the vascular cryptogams. They are non-flowering plants and they occupy a position between the bryophytes and the spermatophytes. Here what I have done, I have just taken the important points of pteridophytes and the main characteristic features of pteridophytes so that it is, at least you guys understand, before you guys are even shown in the lab, at least you are able to understand what pteridophytic plants are. So this is one of the main characters of pteridophytes. Then the other characters is they all are chlorophyllous. Means they have chlorophyll and they can produce their own food. All the pteridophytic plants, you can write they are chlorophyllous, autotrophic, means they can produce their own food. They are archegoniate. What do you mean by the term archegoniate? Can you get something with the term? Means they have archegonia as a term, as a way of production. The sexual reproduction, they produce archegonia as a means of reproduction. So they say they are archegoniate, they are embryophytic, they produce embryos. Tracheophytic, that means they have conducting tissues. They can still absorb water or mineral salts and they can conduct it. That is why it says these are tracheophytic plants. Tracheophytic means they have lignified water conducting tissues. They have lignin deposit under the tissues which can conduct water. So you say they are tracheophytic plants. And they also show, pteridophytes, they show diplohaplontic life cycle. You remember we had done in the algae? We had done the diplontic life cycle, we did the haplontic life cycle and the diplohaplontic. That means what? In their life cycle, they produce both type of spore. There is a diploid stage and the haploid stage. That is why it is called as the pteridophytes, they show diplohaplontic life cycle. So these are the main characters of the pteridophytic plant. Is that okay? Is it clear? Okay, so you can take down the important points, but even I will share the notes of this. Let me know if you are writing, then otherwise I can proceed. So now we will, after this description of pteridophytes, we will see the classification and the different types of groups, how they are classified into. Can I proceed? Okay? Okay, let's proceed now. So this is the classification of pteridophyte, and this classification was done by this scientist Walkovac in the year 2017. He had divided the pteridophyte for an easy study. So the division for the pteridophyte, it has 4 divisions. First is the Coelurotrophyta, under which whisk fawn comes, because all these pteridophyte mostly they are fawn producing plants. The term only we discussed, that pteris means fawns. So all the pteridophytic plants are mostly in the fawn category. You will be shown in the practicals. So first is the Coelurotrophyta, that is the whisk type of fawn, whisk fawn. Then comes the Lycopodiophyta, which you also call as club mosses or quillbirds. Take note of this. Then the third category of pteridophyte is the Invisitophyta, or these type of pteridophytic plant, we also call them as horsetails. And the fourth one, or the last division, is Polypodiophyta, in which the fawns come. So these are the 4 divisions of pteridophytes. Okay, then for the subdivision, every division has further been divided into a subdivision. Then it comes to the class and then comes to the subclass. So every division has a subdivision. So Coelurotrophyta has Coelurotrophytina. This is the subdivision. Class will be Coelurotopsida and order will be Coelurotales. Similarly for all, Lycopodiophyta, just same, Lycopodiophytina, Lycopodiopsida, but then it has 3 classes. Pteridopodiopsida, Selaginopopsida and Isotopsida. Then further 3 subclasses. So for your lab, you will be shown Lycopodiopsida. You will be shown a plant from this class and also from Selaginopsida, which is called as Selaginella, and that is called as Lycopodium. You will be shown in the class, in the practicals. Maybe next lesson we will be showing all this to you. Then for the third division, Equisitophyta, we have this subdivision as Equisitophytina, and the class is Equisitopsida, order is Equisitales. So just try to at least keep it in mind. Maybe some of the terms they pick up and they might even ask you some of the question whether it is belonging to a subdivision or subclass of Pteridophytes or not. So at least just keep it in mind. It's at least the division. If you even remember the division, you can even make the class and the subdivision because it is based on this name only. So it will be still easy. Yeah? But anyway, I'll share these slides also with you all so that you have it. Can I proceed? Yeah? Okay. So the key characters of Pteridophytes. Now for the main key characters of this pteridophyte is that these type of the plant group are the greatest achievement because they have started developing the vascular tissues, which was not in any other lower plants category of plants, any other lower plant group it wasn't there. So this is the greatest achievement, that they have already developed vascular tissues for support and conduction. That is the main greatest achievement of this pteridophytic lower plant group. Then, because of these vascular tissues, the pteridophytic plants, they enable greater size. They can grow up to bigger size, not like the Macanthias and all in the bryophytes. They are not able to grow to a greater size. But because pteridophytes have a vascular tissue, it enables them to attain a greater size. More like it's a land plant and it is of a greater size. Okay, we proceed. So let's proceed now. Now we will still discuss the general characters of pteridophytes so that you have more idea about this type of lower plant group. So let's see again the general characters of pteridophytes. So they can be said as the first true land plants because they have a proper conducting tissue already started in them. So they can be said that they are the first true land plants in the evolution of plant kingdom. The algae can't be taken, bryophytes cannot be taken, but these from this stage you can say they are the first true land plants. Then they exhibit a well-defined heteromorphic alternation of generation. Even here in the pteridophytic category, they still have an alternation of generation. So they have a haploid gametophytic stage and a diploid sporophytic stage, the way we have discussed in the bryophytic category, even in the thallophytic category. But this one, not the thallophytic. So this one, they have the haploid, they can say they have heteromorphic alternation of generation. So they have a haploid gametophyte and a diploid sporophyte. So this is also one of the general characteristics of pteridophytic plants. Then you can say the sporophyte is diploid. Well, you know that mostly the sporophytic stage of the plant, it is all diploid, that is 2N, and that is the dominant phase in the life cycle of a pteridophyte. Okay, so the diploid sporophyte is the dominant phase in the life cycle of the pteridophyte. So this sporophyte is now in the case of bryophyte, you see we were just discussing that the sporophyte is all through the life cycle, it is dependent on the gametophyte. But here in the pteridophytic stage, the pteridophyte plant, sporophyte is an independent plant. This is also a very important character. So the sporophyte is an independent plant and it is free from the gametophyte at maturity. It is not dependent on the gametophyte for its nutrition and all. It becomes a independent stage at that time. So it's a very important characters of pteridophyte you need to remember. Then coming to the gametophyte, for the gametophytic stage of pteridophyte, all these gametophyte are small plant existing in a prolonged intermediate stage in the fern life cycle. For if when it starts to form and it is in the gametophytic stage, all these gametophytic stage in the pteridophyte, it will be a small plant. And it exists as a prolonged intermediate phase in the fern, in the life cycle of the fern. So it is either fully or partially dependent on the sporophyte for its nutrition. It stands on its own, it is quite independent. And then when you see the sporophyte, the sporophytic stage of the pteridophyte, it is differentiated into stem, roots and leaves. Okay, so that means gametophyte is a small plant. So when it starts to grow, it just grows, and when it produces the sporophyte, it is a fully or partially independent. It is not dependent on the gametophyte. Is that okay? You can take a note of this. Kindly ensure to get the notes of bryophyte, which I have already shared with your class rep. And please keep on revising the notes, because the moment we finish this, I will give you a second card only covering the bryophyte and the pteridophyte, because I did not put any question in your prior card. Please. And I want you all to give one card before you write your main exam, so that you have an idea. So ensure that you have, and even these notes I will just share, so that at least you have everything. Yeah? We proceed? Anyways, I will share these notes with you all. That is okay. So let's proceed now. We are still continuing on the general characters of the pteridophytes. So you see, now we can just say that all these pteridophytic plants, they have a vascular system. They already developed the xylem and the phloem tissues for conduction. So you may write all the pteridophytic plants, they have a vascular system. Okay, so they are, that is why you can say they are the only vascular cryptogams. They do not produce what? Flowers, they are producing spores, but they do have a xylem and a phloem conducting tissue. So that's what we say. I ask, you might get a question, what are vascular cryptogams? You have to opt for the option pteridophytes. Okay, so and they have a roots, but these roots are adventitious type. Do you know what are adventitious roots? What are adventitious roots? Nobody? You have any idea what are adventitious roots? No one knows what is adventitious. You must have studied this in the high school also. What are adventitious roots? Say. You can just say, even if it is wrong, it's okay. We are just discussing. Just say, it is not an exam. You can just say. Any idea what are adventitious root? Anyone? I can't even hear if you whisper. Tell me. No one. At least you should try. There is no harm to try. You have to try, children, so that when later you have to try. Adventitious roots are those types of root which arise from the node of the plant. Generally, there is a taproot system in the plant. There is a main root, and then there is this is a plant generally. This is a plant, there is a main root, and then lateral roots arise from the main root. Generally, it is like that. This type of root, you call it as a taproot system. But if you say it is an adventitious root, that means from the nodes of the plant, the roots are arising. See, from the nodes it arises. That is why I was asking you what is adventitious root. You should have just said those roots which arise from the nodes of the plant. They are adventitious roots. So here in the pteridophytes, their root pattern or the root type is adventitious type. So from the nodes of the plant, the lower nodes of the plant, roots usually arise. That's what he said, roots are adventitious type. Then pteridophyte system, usually it's a rhizome, except in Lycopodia. Usually the stems are like a rhizome pattern. The stem of the pteridophytes is usually like this. It's just like a bushy type of appearance. Only in the lycopodials or the horsetails it is not like that. But generally it's a bushy type of pattern because it's a rhizome type of it's a rhizome type of stem. So you were right, pteridophyte stems are usually a rhizome type. Only lycopodials or the lycopodium, or the horsetail, it is aerial. It is not a rhizome type. Then the leaves are mostly small. All the leaves of pteridophytes, they are not so big like the higher plants. They are small leaves, you call them as microphyllous. All the leaves are microphyllous. In the higher forms, they are large. They call as macrophyllous and they have a petiole. But generally the leaves are very small. You call them as microphyllous. Microphyllous types of leaf. Like Selaginella, those type of plants, they have small leaves. You call them as microphyllous. Only in the higher forms like the ferns and all the big pteridophytes, you will find large leaf. You call them as macrophyllous. We have cycads here in our university campus, which when we go for the practicals, you may see all the cycads, they have big leaves. They have big leaves, something they grow this way, the cycads. You see, they are macrophyllous leaves this way, and then there is a spore production in between. So that's what it says. For mostly it is microphyllous. Some Selaginella, that type of category, Equisetum, we say small, but they also have macrophyllous leaf. So they are simple with well-developed petioles. In the macrophyllous type of leaf, they are simple leaf, but they have well-developed petioles. Then plastids are there, plastid pigments are there, which aids them for photosynthesis. And then these type of chlorophylls are chlorophyll A and B. Then they have a pigment called as beta-carotene and xanthophyll. They have all these pigments are present in the leaves of the pteridophytes. Then they also reserve materials which is in the form of a starch. So the storage or reserve material, you may say, for pteridophytes it is starch, fats and oil. They do preserve. And the cell wall components, the cell wall is made up of cellulose. It is also made up of hemicellulose and lignin. That is why that if you see the ferns, the land ferns, the leaves are quite hard in nature because of the deposition of this lignin. Okay, so this is the continuation of the general characters of pteridophytes. If you are writing it is okay, but I will still share this. Then we will just discuss on the reproduction pattern of pteridophytes now. Is it okay? Can I proceed? Okay, let's proceed. Anyway, I'm sharing this. I will just share today only so you will get it. So seeing on coming, the general characters continue. Now we will discuss on the reproduction pattern, how the pteridophytic plants reproduce. So they reproduce asexually by the help of spores. And these spores have a very well-defined exine. Do you know what is exine? Anybody knows what is exine? Exine in the spores, you see if it is a spore, they have a ball like this, somewhat a ball which helps it to deposit on a surface. So this is called an exine wall. There are some rough walls around the spores. We call it as exine. So that's what for the pteridophytes. This is also one of the characteristic development in this category of lower plants. So the asexual reproduction is by the help of spores, and these spores have a well-defined exine as a characters of the spore. Then they also have sporangia or the capsule. They form a capsule which is full of spores. We call it as a sporangia, which produce neospores. The small spores are produced by the help of these sporangia. So these sporangia occur on the lower surface or in the axil of fertile leaf. We call them as sporophyll. So if it is a leaf of a pteridophyte, suppose these are the leaves, down on the lower surface of this leaf you will find these spores. Okay, so that's what they say, the sporangia. These sporangia, they occur in the lower surface or in the axil of fertile leaves. Those leaves which bear spores, they are fertile and we call them as sporophylls. The leaves which do not bear spores are the sterile leaves. But usually when the leaves bear spores, they are the fertile leaves and we call them as sporophylls. So these spores can be same type or can be of different types. If the spores are of the same type, you call them as homospores. And if the spores are different type, you call them as heterospores. So it can be homosporous if it is only one type of spores are produced by these sporangia, or it can be heterosporous if it produces two types of spores. So this is also the characters of pteridophytes. So different type of pteridophyte, it can be homosporous or heterosporous. Then the spores will germinate and it will form haploid gametophyte, the way you have read also. And these haploid gametophyte, the first stage you call them as prothallus. When these haploid gametophyte, they just start forming the new plant. You call that stage as prothallus stage. So homosporous species which bears the same type of spores, they usually produce bisexual or monoecious gametophyte. They have both the type of spores, the male and the female, this way. Whereas the heterosporous species, they produce unisexual or dioecious gametophyte. Is that okay? So these are still the characters. Then these microspores, they germinate to produce the male gametophyte, and the megaspores, they will germinate to produce the female gametophyte. And these gametophyte, again, they perform sexual reproduction, where with the method is called a zooidiogamous, where the sperm swims and it goes to the ovum, and then it forms a small pollen tube. Because of this exine, you see these sperms, after the exine breaks and it forms a small pollen tube, and then it lands over the female part, and then the syngamy occurs. The fusion of the spores occur, we call it as siphonogamy, where the pollen tube forms and then the fertilization starts. So this is just the general, but you will still be taught exactly how it happens, but just to get an idea. Is that okay? It's okay, yeah? Or I repeat it again? It's okay, yeah? At least you get an idea. Is okay? Can we proceed? Okay. So it's still, now you see, so the sex organs are the antheridia and the archegonia. Even here we call them as antheridia and archegonia. They are multicellular and they have a sterile jacket around these antheridia and archegonia. See, there is an antheridia here, there will be a sterile jacket around it. So that's what you say, sex organs are antheridia, archegonia. They are multicellular with a sterile jacket, but they don't have stalks. They are just being produced there. If this is a fern plant, they are just being produced like this. So there are no stalks as such in the antheridia and the archegonia. So, and now this bursts and the sperms are produced. So these sperms are antherozoids. The spores which are produced from antheridia, you call them as antherozoids, and they are bi or multiflagellate. They are bi or multiflagellate. They are lacking flagella. So, and the ovum is stationary in the archegonial venter. If this is the antheridia, suppose this is the antherozoids here. These are the male spores over here. Then we have the the archegonia. So this will swim and go to the archegonia. That's what it says. The ovum is stationary in the archegonial water. Fertilization takes place in the venter of archegonium. So it comes to the archegonia, and water is necessary for fertilization, and then the water is necessary, then diploid zygote develops in the embryo in the archegonial venter. So here there will be fertilization, and in the archegonial venter only the zygote will be formed, which will be a diploid zygote. So the life cycle of pteridophytes, that's what you say it is a diplohaplontic, because this is the haplontic stage before fertilization, and then after fertilization it is the diploid stage, so we call it as diplohaplontic life cycle. Okay, and then also it shows heteromorphic alternation of generation. So the sporophyte and gametophyte, they are quite independent from each other. Okay, so this is how the reproduction of pteridophytes occur. So this is just the general description of the characters of pteridophytes. Yeah. So now we will have to study on every division of pteridophyte. I have taken one example for you to study, so that you have an idea. So it's okay, we can continue. Or you want to take 2 minutes break, because I forgot to bring your attendance sheet. Can I just go and bring it quickly? Okay, so I'm leaving it. If you want to take a note of this, you may just take a note of this, okay? Let me just come quickly.